Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective. Happy Tuesday. You're at the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. But today, we're going to get a little serious. But before we get serious, we're going to start with the Rebel deck. So, yeah, I think we'll start with some fun before we jump into the real stuff, right? So, I love the Rebel deck. This is really your mood defining deck. So let's see. Ooh, getting quite a few coming out here. So one more shuffle. I would like to shuffle 3 times to see what's going to come out. So all right. Whoops. Alrighty then. Okay. Oh, we got quite a few. So I'm gonna just read these while I wait for people to come on. Today is Tuesday Thoughts, so we're gonna Tuesday think it. Good morning, older sibling. So for anybody who watches this at a later time, these are all live and they are on Facebook and they're all public, so you don't need to be friends with me in order to watch it. Just look up my name, Shelly Marie Lucas, SHELLYMARIE, and you can pop on. Maybe you have questions, thoughts, whatever. So I'm still getting used to this mirror image thing, but yeah, it helps when you're looking at cards. So shit is okay, so just a warning, the Rebel deck is a bit mouthy, so definitely fits my personality. So shit is going down with your job. Reevaluate, change your perspective, or fucking quit. All right, so if you're not happy, but okay, there is a but, and you're like, what do you mean there's a but? Make sure you have something else lined up, because you know, if you're working, you're an adult, all right, and you have adult responsibilities. So if you're going to do that, make sure you have something lined up to you know, to pay your bills still. So anyways, but you know, if shit is going down with your job, reevaluate, change your perspective, or fucking quit. You know, find something that brings you joy. So yeah. Believe what you see. Face reality or live in fucking la la land. Choose bravely. Choose bravely. Choose bravely. But yeah, believe what you see. And, you know, sometimes, you know, we have to believe in what we don't see. So I know that's not what it's saying, but sometimes we have to. You know, we always tell people, stop living in a fantasy world. But how do you know it's a fantasy world? How do you know it's not their reality? How do you know it's not something that they know is meant for them? So, you know, just be patient, okay? Time to let go. Move the fuck on. All right, so if you're hanging on to something and, you know, there seems to be a theme here, okay? There seems to really be a theme here. So if you feel like you're holding on too tightly to something, let go, because you never know, right? Once you let go, it might come right back to you, you know, saying, whoa, okay, you know, maybe they'll miss whatever you brought to the table, all those wonderful things. You need, this is the one for me, you need a big fucking hug. Squeezing. I'm squeezing anybody who needs a big fucking hug right now. I'm one of them. So yeah, and if you need one, just put your arms around yourself, squeeze really tightly, and pretend I'm giving you a hug. All right, so I'm sending my energy through. But yeah, a big hug. Take a fucking trip. Go see some shit. Do some new things. Talk to people cooler than you. Everybody's cooler than me. I mean, the neighbor's dog is cooler than me. So, you know, but yeah, go out there, explore the world, enjoy yourself, go have fun, go do stuff, right? Go do amazing things. There's a lot of things I'd love to do. That project, that person, that idea is waiting. Get after that shit. The world has your back. So that person, that project, that idea, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for the world to stop and just, you know, shake everybody off but you and whatever idea, project, or person that you have in mind? It's not going to happen. We all wish it would. You know, God knows I wish that life would work that way, but it doesn't. So get out there. The world has your back. The world has your back. So get out there and do whatever it is. Oh, and the final one. Stop fucking whining. Stop fucking whining. No one wants to listen to that shit. Complaining makes you weak. You have the strength to change your world, so do it. I take a little exception with complaining makes you weak. I don't think complaining makes you weak. I think it slows you down 100%, but I don't think it makes you weak. You do have the strength to change the world. But a lot of times what we're doing is we're not complaining, we're venting. And some people might misunderstand that. So if you're sitting there going, gosh, you might just be having feelings and you're trying to share these feelings. And, it's up to us as human beings and as friends to really kind of validate our people. I mean, if they're complaining about the same thing over and over again, put your foot down and say, look, if you're going to keep complaining about this, do something about it. But maybe the first one or two times when they're talking about it, it could just be that it's fresh inside of them, But like I said, if it's like 6 or 7 months later, or even 4 or 5 months later, and they're still complaining about the exact same thing but doing nothing about it, maybe give them some helpful advice. I know sometimes advice unsolicited is not very favorable, but sometimes we can just make suggestions that might help other people. Just say, hey, I see you're still complaining about this or still venting about this. Maybe sometimes they just need to seek professional help. Sometimes maybe they just need to line up a second job and then quit the one they have and go right to their new one. Do not quit unless you have a job. So, all those things. So, first and foremost, I was not on yesterday. I know. All the people that normally watch this probably noticed. The rest of the world, maybe not. But I've been fighting the good fight. And, it's funny. I think for me, I really wanted this to be like a week-long thing because I had like 3 days all planned out about mental health. And it is Mental Health Awareness Month, so I'd really like to cover a lot of those things. And that way, people who watch it later or maybe watch it or just coming in, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I mean, it's a lot of different things. Apparently, it's also Military Appreciation Month, and for me and my people, it is Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander month. I know, I think the Native Hawaiian part is still catching on, but it's either AAPI or AANHPI. So, but all the things. I told older sibling, I said, why can't we just have our own month? Because she's not Asian, but I'm Asian Pacific Islander and Native Hawaiian. So, la la. But or I have Native Hawaiian blood. But anyways, that aside, I talk about the journey that I was on, the years-long journey I was on, healing a lot of stuff from my past, and really just kind of dealing with the things as they came up and whatnot. And, we've talked a lot about that in the past, but I think the one thing I never really touch base on is how, if you have a dinged up mental health, if it's not situational, maybe it's a chemical imbalance, there are going to be times when things just happen. You're going to have a bad day, and or you're going to have days where you're not okay. And there's a great hashtag that goes around that says it's okay to not be okay. I've used this hashtag a million times, but I haven't really embraced it either. And so I had all these great days put together, and stringing along the days really, really well. And then I kind of, out of nowhere, I just had a bad day. I think there was a trigger, and no matter how much healing you do, there are always going to be those triggers, and sometimes they're going to affect you. Sometimes they're just going to be something you can swat away like a little bug, right? Just go, nope, not today. And sometimes they're going to be like, it's going to come back and say, oh yeah, it is today. So that's what we have to sometimes deal with. And I'm great at preaching, but I'm not good at practicing what I preach. And so my one day turned into several bad days. And it really kind of just exploded yesterday. I went back to bed for a while. I slept a lot yesterday. I could not face the day. I did not get out of my pajamas. I'll be honest with you. I didn't even shower last night because I was just the world just felt like it was really sitting on my shoulders. And And I even emotionally ate yesterday. So, these are the things that happen sometimes. And it doesn't make me any different from anybody else, except that I do have to deal with these days sometimes. And, right now I'm lucky because even though I'm unlucky and don't have a job right now, I am able to kind of figure all this stuff out so that when I do get back into the workforce and everything, I'm able to figure it out and able to just kind of put it at bay until, I can deal with it. So, which isn't always easy. Sometimes the fake it till you make it becomes such a bad habit that we don't know how to break that either. And that's been another one of my problems, which I have been able to break. But unfortunately, I think I embrace the I'm not going to fake it till I make it anymore. And so there's this really awkward for me anyways. And these are all my opinions. So, just take it with a grain of salt. If something works for you, if something hits you in the right way, then, maybe do some research on it. But, I'm not a mental health counselor. I'm not a mental health therapist. I am a person who struggles with my mental health. I have a dinged up mental health. I used to be very ashamed of it, but I'm not ashamed of it anymore because I know that when we share our stories, it helps other people, and it helps other people maybe come out of the shadows and get the help they need to realize that you're not weak. You're sick or it's an illness, but you're not weak. And I do hate the term mental illness. I really do, because it feels so stigmatizing, which is why I refer to my mental illness as a dinged up mental health. But I do have what they call major depressive disorder, which is just one spoke in a very wide and big umbrella. Think beach umbrella, of mental health. So, I'm here to really kind of share my story to help other people with theirs and to be very honest about, excuse me, I know, but, to be really honest about, what I had been going through the last few days. And, I have to say that sometimes it really feels like you're fighting for your soul. I know it sounds strange to some people. I know you're like, oh my God, but no, seriously, sometimes it really does feel like you're fighting for your soul. I wrote this big long oratory. I was watching one of my favorite shows last week, and something they said on the show just really kind of hit me the wrong way. And it made me think about things. That's not what triggered me, but it is something that made me think. And I realized too that, I'm not always as honest as I should be about my mental health. There are times when I struggle and I try to hide it because I don't want to burden anybody with it. I don't want to bother anyone with it. But, if you are a person who does not struggle with a dinged up mental health, but someone who does, maybe it's a loved one, maybe it's your significant other, maybe it's a friend, a child, a family member, whatever, across the board, coworker, excuse me. Patience and understanding is the biggest commodity as far as I'm concerned when it comes to mental health, because a lot of people who do struggle with mental health don't always get the patience and understanding from people that we need. I was about to say they need, but we need. And I've been fortunate that my closest support system, which is older sibling, is very understanding of what I go through. And I do have other people in my support system who struggle with their mental health, but I also have people in my support system who don't. And in fact, I had a really good conversation with one of them last week about how we were talking about meds and stuff. How people get off their meds because they think they're better and then they spiral. And the whole point to me of Mental Health Awareness Month is to really kind of do what we can to remove the stigma. I mean, to be honest with you, I think Mental Health Awareness Month should be every month because, it's fun to celebrate your culture and whatever, month your culture might have a heritage month for, or it's great to celebrate our military. I know some people will disagree with me, but, in some ways, our country was kind of built on a lot of fighting, but we do our best, but I know that can be a bit of a what do you call it, subject, controversial subject for some people, but I do respect our military. My father was in the military when I was a kid. Well, little. He was out before I really understood that he was. But whatever your opinion, it's an appreciation month for them as well. And of course, there's Memorial Day, and then there's Veterans Day, so they also get 2 other days out there. But mental health awareness is every day. And I think sometimes too, with Military Appreciation Month being a part of Mental Health Month, a lot of them come back with PTSD. A lot of people debate PTSD, but I can assure you, it is real. And I can see why some people don't trust the idea of it, because if you haven't been through it, then you're never going to understand. And a lot of veterans come back or have PTSD. There's a new diagnosis that I think is, it's pretty young, but I think it's a few years old now, called CPTSD. So complex PTSD. So complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And that is assigned now to people who have had trauma or abuse. So it's not, PTSD can be anything. It's not necessarily a war thing. It's just, a lot of them do come back. And I think it was really kind of applied to that group because of some of the war things they had to deal with, and the stuff that they don't train you for. So but CPTSD is like childhood trauma, childhood abuse, physical, emotional, sexual, all those things, or domestic abuse, just all the different types of abuses, and how they can be very triggering. And if you know somebody who maybe's been through this, and you put on a show, and it might be about a subject matter they've had to deal with or they've faced in their life, you can see that it kind of comes up. So I guarantee you, as much as I think a lot of the world wish it didn't exist, including the people who have it, it is a real thing. I assure you, it is a real thing. And it's whether you have CPTSD or the traditional PTSD, it really is a complex issue, and it's a struggle. So what I wanted to start with, and what I wanted to start with yesterday, is something I got from the mayoclinic.org. Now, I want everyone to take this with a grain of salt, and the only reason I say that is because the word clinic is in the address, the web address. So it's the mayoclinic.org. So a lot of these are just textbook. A lot of these are textbook, what do you call it? God, this is my brain. Now, see, this is another thing where patience and understanding comes in handy. I'm coming out of a spiral. And so, and I'm grateful because I feel like I've healed so much that spirals that used to last weeks or months are now just lasting maybe a day or two. And it's because I realize, and just last night I thought, what, I need to fight for my soul. And and that's just, like I said, that's how it feels. That's how it feels. It feels like somebody's coming in and just trying to oppress you, right? And just poof, which is, that's a whole nother subject, right? Possession. It's depression, oppression, possession. That's the DOP. It's depression, oppression, possession. And I'm going to tell you, you do not have to be religious for that kind of shit to happen to you, but that's a whole different story. And that's a whole different that's a supernatural talk for a different day. But today we're going to talk about depression in general. And tomorrow, I know tomorrow's Self-Care Wednesday, but I think it actually lands on the perfect day on, if you don't have a ding at mental health, how to try to get people to get help that you might see symptoms in, or how to really kind of have a sit-down talk. Not everybody is going to have depression. They may seem depressed. It could be situational, which means, maybe it's, it could just be a lot of things. It could be situational. It could just be something they're going through, maybe a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one, grief. Grief is a big part of depression, but that doesn't mean a person has clinical depression. People have what I call the common people blues. And it's not meant to separate people, but when you have a dinged up mental health and you have the blues, it can get ugly. When you're a common person, and by that I mean a person who does not struggle with mental issues, the blues, again, could be situational, or maybe you're just feeling lonely, maybe you're sad, maybe, it's a day marking the passing of someone that you loved, and you might just be blue for the day. And you know what, it might go on for a little bit. If you are struggling with grief, and grief and loss is more than just somebody dying. It's relationships ending, it's friendships ending, it's people moving away that you're going to miss and that you care about. It's losing a job, it's losing a fur baby. So there's all different branches on that grief tree. And of course the most common one is when you lose someone you love. But there is grief also tied to relationships ending, or just having a falling out with someone, and maybe you're not sure if you're ever going to be friends again. There's grief and loss in that as well. So those things aside, we're going to talk about the most common symptoms. That's the word I was looking for. The most common symptoms or signs to look for in a person with depression. Now, I know we covered this a little bit last Wednesday, but I'm gonna drive this point home this month. So number one, well, these aren't actually numbered. I just numbered them. So, it's not, 1 through 10, 10 being the worst, 1 being, oh my God, it's not that bad. These are actually should not be numbered. These are just thrown out there. These are the potential symptoms and, what to look for in people that you think may or may not be struggling. So the first one, feelings of sadness, tearfulness, emptiness, or hopelessness. Again, I know that people who have what I refer to as the common people. I don't mean to call common people like, oh, you're common. No, I just mean, I don't want to say normal people, because people with a dinged up mental health are normal. We're not any different than anybody else. Some days we might struggle a little harder. Other days we may just need a little bit more understanding, patience, and compassion. So, but when I say common people, it's just because I don't want to say normal people. So, common people might feel these things too. But when it starts to become deeper and deeper and last longer and longer, it is probably something more than just the traditional blues. There is an issue there. Again, sometimes it's situational, sometimes it could be a chemical imbalance, sometimes it could be trauma based. So for me, it was a little bit of everything. It was trauma based and then situational, but I do have a chemical imbalance. So that's the one thing that I've really struggled to come to terms with, because I really thought, man, I'm gonna go into remission, I'm gonna get off my meds or my one medicine that I'm on, my one antidepressant, and I'm gonna go out there and be normal. And then I had to realize I am normal. I just need a little help being normal. So I'm not trying to make a joke out of this, I promise, but if we get too serious in this, sometimes we tend to get lost. And we get lost in the information. So this is just me. This is just how I am. Sometimes I get nervous and I giggle about it. Sometimes I get nervous and I will laugh. But going into mental health is such a serious subject that I think sometimes it is okay to just kind of add a little bit of that humor so that people do understand that, we're doing the best we can every day. And like I said, some days are way better than others. Lots of days are way better than others. Like I said, for me, falling apart the last couple of days, it's been a horrible experience, because I had to come to the understanding with myself that as many times as I have said, it's okay to not be okay, a hashtag I got off of Twitter, I don't follow my own advice. I don't practice what I preach. I figured, nope, I've had like 50 bazillion days that are great in a row and I refuse to have a bad day. But the problem is when I don't deal with it, when I don't hit it head on and I go running from it, it will chase me down. And once it tackles me, I've lost the upper hand. So I have to remind myself that when I start to feel these feelings coming on, that I need to face it. And if you have someone around you that's close to you that understands what your brain is doing, then let them know, hey, you know what, I'm having a bad day. Just please keep an eye on me or check in on me to make sure I don't go down the rabbit hole. So again, the first one is feelings of sadness, tearfulness, emptiness, or hopelessness. And I am telling you, the feeling of emptiness or hopelessness, super no bueno. It's hard. It's hard. The emptiness and the hopelessness, it can lead you to, depending on what your situation is. I was just super lonely this weekend. I mean, I have a roommate who is my older sibling. I love her to bits, but there's just sometimes with mental health, you can feel alone in a crowded room. And, I see people with other people and I think, gosh, you know what? Am I ever going to have something that spectacular? Am I ever going to have something that amazing? And then you find a new rabbit hole to go down. So now you're already sad. You're feeling empty. You're feeling hopeless. I'm starting to get tears in my eyes. And you're feeling sad. And then you're just kind of like, yeah, this rabbit hole's not enough. Let's dive down another one. And so now that's two things you have to try to climb yourself out of. So, and sometimes these things can lead to the next one: angry outbursts, irritability, or frustration, even over something small. Now, for me, in my experience, sometimes the angry outbursts, even over something small, is when we're constantly pushing down, pushing down, pushing down, and pushing down. And we're not dealing with it. Or again, you're running and running and running, and then it just tackles you, and you're just like, you've lost the upper hand. When we don't deal with things in the moment, it can just stockpile until there's enough pressure that it just explodes like a volcano. And like I said, it could be over something small. You could be pushing something down for days or weeks on end, maybe even months. And, someone might cut you off on the street and you just lose your ever-loving mind. Or somebody says to you, hey, I thought we were supposed to be here 5 minutes ago. Are you running on Hawaiian time? And they might be joking with you. But then you just explode like, fuck you, blah, blah, blah. And you just lose your shit. And then the whole day is ruined. You end up going home. The other person's pissed off at you. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it. But again, understanding and patience. Especially if somebody has a mental health issue. Because, again, a lot of times it feels like it's easier to run away from something than towards it, to fight it. Sometimes we just feel so debilitated, I guess, that we just feel like we don't have the strength to fight something. And, I will tell you right now, and I'm saying this from experience because I do have a dinged up mental health. For the people that think people with mental illness are weak, I got news for you. We are stronger than most people give us credit for. We are stronger than most people are willing to admit or understand. Because for someone, especially people who there are far worse diagnoses than what I have. Mine is I always say it's the run-of-the-mill depression, but I guess when I was reading on it, it actually isn't. It can be some serious shit. But, considering some of the other things that are out there that I do not have, and I'm very grateful for, and I feel for the people who do, like the multiple diagnosis people, it takes everything in their power to get out of bed every morning, to wake up every morning, to make it through an entire day. When people take their own lives, it's not weakness. That's, to me, in my opinion, from the situations that I've seen in my own near attempts, it's pain. It's thinking, God, you know what? This world would, be better off without me, because it feels like everywhere I go, I'm just causing problems. And you're probably not. It probably just feels that way. Or you're just tired of fighting. You're just tired of fighting. You just got nothing left in you. And it takes a lot of strength to face your mortality. And I know for a fact from the people I've known that have attempted and survived their attempts that it takes courage, again, to face your own mortality. I'm not saying do it. By all means, get the help you need. Take the time that you need to get the help you need, because people love you and you are worth it. And if we can save just one life, that's what sharing our mental health is all about. Letting people know they're not alone. A lot of people who I think do go over the deep end are people who struggle with their mental illness or struggle with, accepting the situation as it is. And just, they feel stigmatized. And a lot of times, letting go is the only way they know to not feel stigmatized. So, again, two big commodities: patience and understanding. Listen to somebody. If somebody says, "Oh, I think I have depression," ask them. Say, "Hey, why don't you go see a therapist and see if it's true?" Or, if it's situational, because it might be situational. And even if it is situational, therapists seeking professional help can help a lot of people. It can help people who might have situational depression. Just, I don't even know if I'm making up terms here, but that's what it feels like. But I've known people who don't actually have depression, but they were going through some stuff. And it was to me like a momentary depression. And they sought professional help and they got the help they needed and they got their balance back, and they were off and running, back to their lives, their normal lives, right? Their common people lives. But without that, it's possible it could have developed into something worse. So we need to destigmatize seeking professional help as well. I know we see about it in the movies where people are joking, people are laughing, people are whatever, counselors. But it's the people that have to listen to our shit every week or every other week really deserve a medal, and who try to guide you through and help you navigate. The mental health map is really personalized to each person. You could have two people traveling to Chicago, right? From Santa Monica. I'm going somewhere with this. A lot of you may have already caught on. I think older sibling may have already caught on, but maybe you're traveling from Chicago to Santa Monica or Santa Monica to Chicago, right? So think of it this way. Some people will be like, no, I want to take the direct route. So they give you a map that takes you on all the highways to get there. But sometimes when you have a mental health issue, you end up going the scenic route, which is basically Route 66, right? Route 66 goes from Santa Monica to Chicago, vice versa. I mean, it's one long road that I think hits freeways from time to time, goes through little towns, this and that. And sometimes that's what mental health does for us. Instead of taking the direct route, we're just kind of like sightseeing everywhere. And not necessarily by choice. Sometimes we just get put on the scenic route without even realizing we're on the scenic route. And, but sometimes you just have to enjoy the view and take it for what it is. But that sometimes happens. Now, personally, I would love to take Route 66. That is on my bucket list of things to do. But going back to the last one, angry outbursts, irritability, or frustration, even over something small, just be patient. I know it's hard. I know you do not deserve to be yelled at. But just do what older siblings sometimes used to do to me when this used to happen. What is going on with you? What is happening? She would bottom line it, straight up. Bottom line it. And that would always kind of snap me too. Like, oh my God, now I have to think of a reason that I'm mad. But then we realized, oh, maybe there was something in there. Because a lot of times what you're bursting out in anger with may be completely different from what you're actually mad at. You could be seeing something on TV that irritates the shit out of you and you're just like, what the F, blah, 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 blah. And you just have your little outburst, or like I said, someone cuts you off on the road. Someone might say something that you don't appreciate, but it could be something totally different. It could be some other kind of pain that's just fueling this anger. So the next one, loss of interest or pleasure in most or all normal activities, including sex, hobbies, or sports. I know. And yeah, sex was in there. It was the first one listed. Sex, hobbies, or sports. Or sex is your hobby. I know. Sorry, like I say, humor. I know. Am I blushing? I said the word sex. But anyways, but yeah, loss of interest or pleasure in most or all normal activities. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't have a lot to add to that because I think that's pretty cut and dry, right? I mean, if you enjoy being with your partner or being with people or being with someone and all of a sudden you just lose that, that could be bad. Hobbies. If you have hobbies, maybe you love to paint or write or take pictures, Photography. I mean, two of the three of those I absolutely love. I'm terrible. I'm a terrible artist. All I can do is splash colors together. But I cannot draw to save my life. But I enjoy it because it's just very therapeutic. But photography and writing are two of my favorite things. Sports, I absolutely love all my sports teams, but sometimes just turning the channel and watching it and feeling like I have that time to commit to it just feels sometimes like it's too much. It's too much. And when we feel that way, it's because we're losing the pleasure of things around us. We're so wrapped up in our minds and in our heads that we can't find pleasure in anything. So, baby step your way into it. If you love to write, no, I love to journal. As well. I mean, I actually like to write stories, but I do journal a lot, and I force myself sometimes, even if I'm just writing. Like the other day, I just wrote, today was a really bad day. But I have to make sure that I'm consistent in trying to do it every single day. So, and I haven't been good at that. But, if you're losing your interest in things that you love to do, or, just try to find your way back. And if you're someone who's dealing with someone, maybe you have a partner and all of a sudden you feel like they've dropped off the planet when it comes to being intimate, just work through with them. Maybe there are things from their past that are coming up that scare the hell out of them, and all of a sudden these are fresh memories, and the act itself could be a trigger. So walk them through it. Let them know they're safe. Ask them what's going on. Don't just assume that they're seeing somebody else, or don't just assume that, they're taking care of themselves, or don't just assume that they're not in love with you anymore. They don't want to be with you anymore. It could be something completely different. And I kind of feel like, if people took mental health more seriously, especially in relationships, even if you do not struggle with it and your partner does, that a lot of, issues could probably be resolved a lot better than just assuming the worst. So don't assume the worst, at first. Just ask them, hey, what's going on? Is there something I can help you with? There's something I can do. And just let them have that comfort zone. Give them space to feel comfortable and open up to you. And if you are that person, let your partner, be there for you. Open up to them. Let them help you through these things, whether it's being intimate, a hobby, or sports. Open up to them. That's what they're there for. Your best friends, your family, your significant other. These are things, especially when it comes to intimacy, these are the things that you need to work through together. If you need to see a counselor for it, they actually have sex therapist counselors who can help people who've been through these bad things in their life, or, even just to find that spark again, right? I mean, they're trained in all different directions. So, yeah, no, but seriously, they're, I know, my mind lives in the gutter. Everything becomes dirty. But no, seriously, that's what their profession is, to help people through their trauma, or to help people find their way to each other and how to spice things up. So they could also help you figure out what needs to be done. But, again, if you are the person who is struggling, you have to find a way to heal that so that it doesn't, run your life. Take your power back. So the next one, sleeping too little or too much. I can't tell you how much I slept yesterday. It was quite a bit. I went to bed at 5:30 last night. 5:30. I mean, I woke up at like 7, 8 o'clock, so that was sucked. And I was up till about midnight. But yeah, I was just like, I thought I was going to sleep through the night. I had nothing left in the gas tank. And not to mention, I had just woken up at like 11 that day. I woke up, decided I wasn't doing my show. Decided I wasn't going to do my show. And I went back to bed. So, sleeping too little or too much can also be an issue. The next one, tiredness or lack of energy. So even small tasks take extra effort. Now, there are... This is a rough one, because some people will sit there and say, oh, you can't do this, or you don't do this, and you don't keep a good house, or you don't do... People don't always understand that sometimes when you are struggling at your worst, even getting dressed feels like a chore. Even getting out of bed feels like a chore. And for me, I'm grateful that my diagnosis it's few and far between when I have these moments. And I'm grateful for that. But I know people who struggle with this every single day. who don't have the energy to do anything, who don't have the energy to just pick up and move along. So yeah, again, patience and understanding. The next one, reduced or increased appetite causing weight issues. I'm an emotional eater. I keep trying to be a recovering emotional eater, but I keep falling back into old patterns. And I think part of that is, to be honest with you, I'm feeding the loneliness inside of me. And that certainly doesn't help because, people don't want to see the inside of you first. They want to see the outside of you first and decide if you're good enough for them to know. And I know I'm being a little snarky when I say that, but, I may be a plus size girl, but I'm worth it. I have to say I'm worth it. I worked very, very hard to get to a place where I actually love myself. And there are days when that gets a little sketchy. And I have to remind myself, hey, you worked too hard to get to this place. I've hated myself my entire life. My entire life. I hated myself when I was thin. I hated myself as a plus size person. But as a plus size person, I've learned to love myself. Now, I am trying to get healthy because of my heart, but which is fine. But we want to keep it that way, right? But, just give people a chance. Talk to them. Learn about the person before you decide, oh, well, I don't like the outside, so I'm moving on. But, because you never know. You never know what you are going to miss because you're worried about what other people might think. So there. Anyways, I may have opinions on that. But also watch for the people that are constantly losing weight. Because, there are people who have the weight gain from emotional eating and there are people who just cannot eat. So, both of them can be pretty traumatic. Both of them can be very stressful on the body. So just, pay attention to those things because if someone's losing a lot of weight and they're not on a health kick, but that they're struggling with something, then it might be time to step in. All right. And do it gently. All right. Don't just say, hey, you got a mental health problem. We need to get you help. No, just say, hey, you know what? I've noticed some changes in you. Do you need to talk? I'm here. Or do you just need someone to sit with you for a while? Because sometimes you can't just say to someone, what can I do to help you? Because they may not know, right? They may just be like, I don't want to talk about it. Sometimes you have to sit with them for a while. And it could be a long while but once they know they're comfortable or once they have worked through their mind that they're not going to be judged, they will probably open up to you. So the next one, physical problems that can't be explained, such as backaches or headaches. Interestingly enough, I said that I had just a several days spiral. I think I'd actually been spiraling a while because I have had headaches for almost 3 weeks. And believe it or not, knock on wood, since I started facing this spiral, I have not had one. So I tend to think that it was my brain trying to tell me I can't hold any more in, Shelly Marie, I'm gonna explode. This is why we're hurting. And I finally listened and poof, I let the volcano go. But, in the least destructive way possible. The next one, anxiety, restlessness, or nervousness. That can be a big one, especially anxiety. Walking, like I said, sometimes you can feel completely alone in a crowded room. But there are times when you can feel like you're in a room of 5 people and it feels like 100. When people just kind of, they can't handle it. They just have to walk out. So that could be the anxiety, the restlessness, or the nervousness. The next one, slowed thinking, speaking, or body movements. I also noticed, I have to say, talking this out with you guys is really, really helping me because now I'm starting to see patterns that I hadn't seen before. Like last week and the week before, when I was doing my show, I was tripping over words. I was struggling to find words, and I feel like my inability to balance having good days and bad days and understanding that the bad days will, from time to time come along and dealing with them in that moment, my ignoring that is really what I think was causing all these physical issues. I was having pains on my side, down my arms, and no, I was not having a heart attack, but I was having all kinds of pains in weird places. I was having headaches like nobody's business, and all of that's gone. All of that is gone since I started, facing this spiral over the last couple of days. And I think it's because I didn't face the spiral. I think I backed myself into a corner and had no other choice but to come out swinging. I was like a feral cat in the corner, just like, just trapped. And so I had to find a way out. And I think because I found that way out, not giving myself a choice when I had the choice to just face it and just deal with the fact that, you know what, I could have 10 days in a row and one bad day, and that's okay. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Instead, I let it spiral. And apparently, now that I'm thinking about it, I let it spiral for weeks. So I say I just dealt with it for the last couple of days, but you know what? I did run from it. And it tackled me. And it tackled me hard. So, but yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I haven't had any of those pains. Again, knock on wood, because I hate having sinus headaches. They suck. But the next one, feelings of worthlessness or guilt, focusing on past failures or blaming yourself for things that are not your responsibility. Sometimes I think that can be situational, but sometimes I think we take on so much, that that if it doesn't work out, we can rake ourselves over the coals like nobody's business. Nobody needs to beat us up, because when you have a dinged up mental health, you spend enough time doing that to yourself. Yeah, we are literally our worst enemies and our best friends. And what we have to choose is, which one do we want to be? Our worst enemy or our best friend? And I think we should be our best friend. I think when we have those 10 good days in a row and you might have one bad day, it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. You're not sick. You're not weak. You're not weak. You're sick. Sick in here. And it's going to happen. And sometimes we just need to give ourselves that time to just deal with it. If you are at work and you can't just find that time, find different times. Take your breaks. You may be a person that doesn't take your breaks. Take your breaks, go outside, take a few deep breaths. When you go to lunch, just focus on you. Maybe get outside, eat your lunch, go to a restaurant, maybe go to a conference, go somewhere quiet, even if it's just sitting in your car, and give yourself that time to let off a little bit of steam so that it doesn't erupt like a volcano. Give yourself the moments to let off the steam. Then when you go home, just, don't worry about everything at home. Oh, the dishes are in the sink. Okay, well, the dishes will be there tomorrow. Okay, when you're feeling better, you can get rid of them. But sit down and do something that you enjoy, something that relaxes you. Give yourself the compassion that you would expect from other people. Give yourself the understanding and the patience. I call it a huge commodity, patience and understanding, because the one person that should be giving you that the most is yourself. You need to be the most compassionate, most understanding, and most patient person in your life in order to get through this stuff. So the next one. Oh, and going back for a second, life is perfectly imperfect. I had a friend who, she's all, it's like you always tell me, Shelly, we're perfectly imperfect. And I'm like, damn, I knew my words would come back to bite me one day, but we are. I like to think of myself as being perfectly imperfect, but I forget that sometimes. And the perfectionist in me does try to come out. And, because of that, I will blame myself for things that aren't my responsibility. I will blame myself for past failures. The one thing about failure that we all forget is that we're not failing, okay? What's that one quote? I can't remember who it's from. It's like, I didn't fail, I just found like 100 different ways not to do something. And that's the truth. When we fail, we're figuring out a new way to do something, which means that way was probably just not as efficient as we thought it would be. Or maybe it worked for a while, but it didn't have that function in it that could make it long lasting. So we figure out, hey, what can I do to change this so, this little vehicle of my idea can go farther. So instead of looking at failure as a 4-letter word, instead of looking at fail as a 4-letter word, look at it as like a seed. You're replanting a seed and you're figuring out a new way to grow it. All right. So the next one, trouble thinking, concentrating, making decisions, and remembering things. I think that one speaks for itself. So, yeah, exactly. The next one, frequent or repeated mention of not wanting to live, suicidal thoughts, suicide attempts, or suicide. There's also near attempts. This was my note. There's also near attempts, which land somewhere between thoughts and attempts. Okay, so I talked about how I've had near attempts, and by that I mean I've had, whatever my choice was at the time. I don't want to trigger anyone, so I'm not going to mention them. But I've had 3 very distinct near attempts. And every single time, I'm very grateful. It may not be your path of thinking, but I know divine intervention stepped in. And probably the fear of dying. So, but I was there. So I found out, because I said, well, I've come close, but it's not a big deal. And I was told no by my therapist, my current therapist. I was told no, those are called near attempts. And you need to think about that, because they're not just thoughts. You are literally in the action, but just struggling to go through with it. And, I've since made promises to, I've finally made it to myself, which I'm very proud of. But I've also made a promise to older sibling and baby sibling that I will never have another attempt under my belt. And that's a hard promise to keep. But I find that from my own experience in having lost people through this way, that I see what it does do to the other people. Now, don't say that to somebody. Don't say, well, you shouldn't do that because you're going to hurt everyone around you. That's the last thing they need to hear. But as a person who's had a friend who did, and a person who's had a family member who's done this, you do see how it affects everyone around you. And I don't want to do that to other people. Now, that's my opinion. I can't stop people from what they're going to do. What we are trying, though, is to give people the understanding and show them. Not because, well, you don't want to hurt other people when you do that. That is the last thing you want to say to somebody. Because you're just going to make them feel worse. What you want to show them is, hey, you're valuable. You are loved. You may not feel it right now. You may not see it in your own mind, but we care about you. And that's what I saw. It was how it affected the people around them, because this person was so loved. This person was so cared about. And everybody racking their brains going, what could I have done? What could I have done? And there's nothing we could have done. It's a very personal choice. It's a very deep choice. I know people are going to sit there and go, you're nuts when I say this, but there is some bravery that is really attached to this, because you are, like I said, you are facing your mortality. And not because you have anything other than the fact that you have depression. And like I said, you don't want to sit there and tell somebody, well, you're going to hurt people if you do it. No, again, that will probably drive someone to probably go through with it. I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying they won't. What you want to do is show them what you see in them. You may not be able to convince them. You may be able to convince them. But I've had people say, I'm glad you're still here. I'm glad you're still here. I'm glad you're sharing your story. Your story helped save me. Your story helped heal me. Your story gave me the courage to move through what I needed to move through. And I've gotten these compliments from people, and I don't share them often, but the reason I'm sharing them now is to give you a little insight as to why I keep doing this. Whether we're talking about something completely mundane or something as important as mental health. It's all important. Because the whole goal is to save people. It is to show people that the world is a better place with them in it. Not because of the people that might be hurt or, unsure about how to feel about all this, but because they bring their light to the world. Their light may feel very dim to them because they may feel unaccomplished. They may feel like they don't belong. They may feel like, they're so far behind everybody else. And these are all things I'm feeling right now. Yeah, these are all my feelings. And I know I'm not alone in that. Somebody asked a question on Twitter yesterday. They said, how did this situation affect you? And I said, I'm 50 years old and I have no idea where I belong in this world. Not at all. The only thing I know for sure is that I love doing the Aloha Perspective. I know it reaches people, even if they're not on here live. I know it reaches people outside of the live viewing. And that's why I shared some of the feedback I've gotten, because it has surprised me. I'll just comment on somebody's post and they'll be like, part of this is because of you. All I did was show people there's a path Any accomplishment that is made by the person. I share my story, people might relate to it. I share different things, people might relate to it, and they apply it to what might help them. Just like I have had that opportunity from other people. I've seen other people that have posted things. I've seen other people that have shared their story. I've seen other people who have maybe don't have a dinged up mental health, but said, hey, you know what? I was in a very bad place at this point and I tried this. Not everything I say is going to help somebody, but one or two things might. And that's what we do. We pick what works for each and every one of us. Every map of our mental health, every puzzle of our mental health is not going to be the same map as somebody else. It is not going to be the same picture puzzle as anybody else's. The pieces might be the same, but the puzzle is different for everybody. Because everybody has to figure out what's going on in there. Everybody has to figure out their own map and how to navigate it. It's like I talked about the other day. If my mental health zigs, I have to make sure I zig with it. But as I've mentioned, as I started to realize while talking through all of this with everybody, while my mental health was zigging, I was zagging. So it was going this way and I was going that way. And this is what happened over the weekend. And I had to cancel my show yesterday because I literally had nothing in the tank. I couldn't even push myself to find anything in that tank. But I'm back. And I'm realizing now what I need to do to stay balanced, or to stay as balanced as I can. I need to stop thinking about my failures. I need to stop thinking about where I've gone wrong, what I've done wrong, what I haven't done, the decisions I made in my life, whether they were right or wrong. It has taken a lot of work to get where I'm at just today. And not because of my spiral, but just in general. It has taken a lot of work to get to a place where I can acknowledge having a spiral, where I can be honest with people. A year ago, I would have been sharing all this and I would have been in tears. And in a way, and I would be in tears because I would feel like a failure, because I would feel like there were things that I should have done that I didn't do, that I could have done and didn't do. And I would shame myself for it. But now I feel the tears pricking in the back of my eyes. I know not the back of my eyes, but in my eyes. But they're not coming simply based on the fact that they're happy tears. Because I realized in the comment that I made yesterday, yeah, I'm 50, okay, fine. But wow, I've survived my life. I've survived near attempts. I've let down my guard enough for people to come in and help me. I've let my guard down enough to be honest with other people. I've let my guard down enough to share my story with other people who have gone on to share their own stories and who have gone on to help other people. And that's what it is. We're a ripple effect. Every single one of us create a ripple effect. The question is, do you want your ripple effect to be a beautiful one? Or do you want it to be an angry one? Do you want to push everyone away? Or do you want to allow people in to help you? Don't worry what a common person might think about your mental health. If they want to be with you, they will be with you. They will figure you out. I have a friend that was telling me the other day that their partner was not sure how to handle their anxiety, but they worked on it. They figured it out. People always say love conquers all. Sounds stupid, but love really does conquer all. And it's not just about relationship love. It's your significant other love. It's your family, your friends, the people you trust, the people you let in. You don't have to you don't have to, blast it to the world like I do. But I blast it to the world for a reason. Because I have a gift of talking. I have a gift of writing. And I've gotten comfortable being in front of a camera, even though this mirror image is just kind of throwing me off, right? I feel like I'm on a boat. My mouth feels crooked. But this is how we do our best. And like I said, even if all the sharing we do saves one life, and I guarantee you, whether you know it or not, it will save a lot more. But even if we know of just one person, that's what matters. That's what truly, truly matters. And I say that because that's somebody that's still here to shine their light for somebody else that may need to hear their story. Okay, so The last thing I wrote was depression symptoms can affect work or school, social activities, or even relationships. People can be generally unhappy or miserable and not know why. And, sometimes, and those are some of the symptoms that you can see. They may not know why they feel crappy. But, or with children and teens, they may show it by being cranky or sad. I didn't realize that in my teens I had depression. And we're going to talk about this later this week. I think my subject is suicide risks and is it generational? And I know it seems weird that I'm going to put those two together, but you'll see why I put those two together. There was a huge stigma, and we cannot blame the past generations for not understanding this, because this is what they were taught. But now we're in a position where we can break this cycle, and we can break the stigma. We can end the stigma, stop the stigma, break the stigma. There are so many hashtags out there. Use them all. Use them all. Because the more we put out there that it is an illness to be taken seriously, people might start to understand it more. You wouldn't weaponize cancer, right? You wouldn't weaponize heart disease or diabetes or strokes or all those things. So why is it when those illnesses come along, we treat them with understanding, patience, and compassion, but when we hear the term mental illness, we freak out and run the other way? Mental illness doesn't mean someone's going to grow up to be a serial killer. In fact, sociopaths exist. Psychopaths exist. Well, the psychopaths are a little, yeah. But sociopaths do exist. They're the people who probably run in a company somewhere because they don't care whose head they have to step on. But that doesn't mean they're going to go out and kill somebody. Somebody with a mental health problem doesn't mean they're going to go out and kill somebody or hurt someone or murder someone. It happens. Yes, you see it a lot on our news every single day in this country, which is just... But this is why we need to stop the stigma. This is why we need to end it. This is why we need to stop thinking that if our child has depression, that we failed them in some way. I love my mother, and we've talked about this before, but she was very clear when she said, "You are not a weak person." I did not raise a weak child. I wasn't weak. And what I wish I could help her understand now, I wish she was still here for me to tell her, is it took more strength than you will ever realize to survive being undiagnosed for as long as I did. And to survive being diagnosed and being swept under the rug by you. Because my mom didn't understand it, and it scared her. And I'll talk about the generational part, and I'll talk about why it scared her. Because she had a family member that took their own life. And I think when I go back and think about it now, I think that's what she was afraid of. Having mental illness does not mean you are going to, have suicidal thoughts or take your own life, commit suicide. It doesn't mean that. Not everybody gets that far, especially if they get the help they need. And even when they get the help they need, sometimes they still teeter on that brink. Because their diagnosis, it's just their brain is constantly going and constantly lying to them. But the more we become accepting that this is what people have dealt with for hundreds of thousands of years, it's not anything new. The only reason we feel like it's new is because the grandfather, the father, the whoever's of psychology, it's only been in the last, couple hundred years? I mean, I think Freud, who is what they consider him to be the father of psychology, was, existed in, the late 1800s, early 1900s. So when you think back to the 19th, 20th, and 21st century, it's still new to people. But that doesn't mean that people weren't dealing with it before. Somebody just had the thought process to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to look into this, and I'm going to create a whole new, a whole new branch of the health aspect, and we're going to call it mental health or mental illness. I prefer mental health. Now they have neurodiversity, so that's a big one. And I think they use those especially for people on the spectrum, neurodivergent. But there is it's expanding into all kinds of fancy names. But when it comes down to it, it's all about mental health. And Like I said, it's not anything new. It might seem new. It might seem in its early stages. I personally am a fan of Carl Jung, but because a lot of his teachings really, really helped me through my own issues. But tomorrow I'm gonna be getting back up on my soapbox, and tomorrow we're gonna talk about urging people to seek help, tips to navigate those fragile waters, and which is basically not trying to force people into something they're not ready to do. So again, patience, understanding, compassion, all the big commodities. If you are a person who struggles with your own mental health, please give those things to yourself as well. Self-love, self-care, they're two so important things. And I promise you, if I can figure out the self-love thing, so can you. Okay? So again, please, please, please take care of yourselves. If you need to seek professional help, don't be ashamed. Nobody needs to know. You know, nowadays they have online things, so you can do it in the privacy of your own home. You don't even need to go into a therapist's office. I know some people still feel stigmatized by that. Eventually, if you're feeling comfortable, I would suggest talking to someone in person as well. I do the in person because I can totally go squirrely on a video chat. You know, if it's not a conversation with a friend or somebody you're getting to know, then and it's all about you because it's your therapy. I can just be like la la la, you know, and just I start doing too many things. So literally, I turn into a squirrel. But well, not literally, but mentally, I turn into a squirrel. So again, please, please, please take care of yourselves. Older sibling, thank you for all the nice comments. And yeah, just keep shining your light. I know sometimes it's hard. I know some days that your light may feel dim and it may feel like there is no hope in this world. But just know that you are loved and people care about you and people love you. And again, if you know somebody who is, we are going to talk about the suicide risk, but I really want to make this very, very clear. Do not guilt people into not taking their lives. And by that I mean just say, well, how do you think people are going to feel if you just, that's not going to help them. They already feel at their lowest. They already feel all this emotional and potentially physical pain that they have. Don't make it worse. I'm just going to say that. Do not make it worse. Do not guilt somebody by saying, well, don't you know how your mother would feel or your father would feel or your grandmother? That ain't going to help them. In fact, you may actually be giving them the nudge to go over the edge. Treat them with compassion. You are very loved, and I just want to help you. What can I do to help you? Do you want me to just sit with you? If they don't answer you, just sit with them. Just sit with them. Let them know that they are cared about. Guilting someone into not doing something, like I said, it's just going to make it worse. Show them the compassion and the understanding that they need, that they can't give themselves in this moment, where they're literally teetering on the edge because maybe they feel like a failure. Maybe they feel like they don't matter, like the world doesn't need them. I have felt that way before. Oh, here it comes. Sorry. You can't stop it when it happens, but I have felt that way before, and it's the worst feeling in the world. And I'm very lucky that at the times when I was open about it, when I did have these issues, that I wasn't guilted into not doing it. I was reminded what I bring to this world. And when you have a dinged up mental health, even just saying that you know what you bring to this world, it can be very hard. Because people will say, well, you're big on yourself. No, I'm not. I just know because I know what people tell me. And I see what I've done and what my being open about things has done for other people. And when you see that, you start to realize, wow, I do bring something to the table. And if you have lost someone to suicide, please don't be angry with them. I know it's hurtful and I know it's painful and I know you sit there and think, what could I have done? What could I have done? But it's a very personal choice and has nothing to do with anybody but themselves. And it's not meant to hurt other people. Well, as far as I know, the majority of the things out there and the people that I've known wasn't done to hurt other people. There was just this momentary darkness that took over, and unfortunately it won. And so let's be compassionate, let's be understanding, sorry, and let's be patient and remind people how loved they are. Okay, so again, it's gotten kind of long, so I apologize for that, but it is a very important subject to me. And like I said, tomorrow for Self-Care Wednesday, we'll be talking about it. I will start out with some self-care tips, so we'll be good there. But again, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Please, please, please take care of yourselves. Tomorrow, again, is Self-Care Wednesday. We'll be talking about how to notice some of the signs and how to gently urge or nudge people into potentially getting help. So that'll be 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public. Anybody can watch, whether we're friends or not on Facebook. Again, it's under Shelly Marie Lucas, or you can catch my replays on the Aloha Perspective Facebook page and the Aloha Perspective YouTube page. If you follow me on Twitter, you will probably see my links there, along with a daily affirmation that I do Monday through Friday. So again, I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Please, please, please take care of yourselves. I'm not saying go watch everybody, like with binoculars saying, oh my God, do they have depression? Because not everybody does. But I think if you use your spidey instincts, you're going to figure out the people that just don't want to admit it. And you might be able to help them. Even if you can't get them into help, you can give them, again, the compassion, understanding, and patience that they might need. Gently be a gentle tour guide. Don't be a forceful one. But like I said, sometimes our mental health map, it's a hard one to navigate. So we need to do it with kindness. All right. I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching.